Welcome to my kitchen. I'm Bubbe Joan, and this is Someone's in the Kitchen with Bubbe Joan. Today, we're going to make Shabbat challah. As with any yeast bread, the first thing we do is start with a sponge. That's just a fancy name for yeast growing a little bit. I don't use instant yeast. I use active yeast, whichever brand. I buy it by the jar because I make a lot of challah. I also keep it in the freezer. Keeps it really fresh. Not that it has time to go bad, because I make a lot of challah. So, we start with water. Water should be, in this recipe, it says 100 degrees. So, very scientifically, I get some water heating, and then I check the temperature with my handy dandy little thermometer. It's 114, that's good. So I add some cold water, or room temperature water. I just kind of mix till I have 100 degrees of 1 cup of 100 degree water. It's different every time. Oh, the adventure. This should be a cup of 100 degree, let's see. Yeah, 100.2 and 0.3 works for me. The sponge is made of water, food, and yeast. So my food is honey. I love using honey for the challah. Gives it a great flavor. Honey also acts as a preservative, so it keeps my challah fresh longer. And honey, I add my water. And I like to give the honey and water just a little tiny stir, just so there's enough honey through the water for the yeast to grow on, because I'm going to sprinkle the yeast over the top. This is 4.5 teaspoons of yeast, which would be 2 packages, 2 loaves, 2 packages, makes sense. I measure it out from the jar. Just going to sprinkle it over the top. And that takes about 5 minutes. I'm going to watch the yeast and see. It's going to get a little moistened by the water, and it's going to start getting a little bubbly, and also going to smell it. No smell-o-vision, sorry, but we'll come back in a moment and look at it. And here's the yeast, all nice, and it's not really bubbly, but it looks active, right? It looks like something real. Has beautiful little lines in it. That's ready for the next. If you use instant yeast, you can just put all the ingredients together. It works. But with a regular yeast, we need to let the sponge develop first, and then we can add everything in. This way we get a better action. It isn't inhibited. Salt really inhibits the growth of yeast. So that's why we keep other ingredients back. So we are adding 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt. I love salt, and this is pink Himalayan salt, and you can use more. This is maybe 1.5 teaspoons. I don't like to use a whole 2 teaspoons because we salt the challah, the outside of the challah, which is a sign of the covenant between us and Hashem. So here's our 1.5 teaspoons of salt. We have 1/2 cup of oats, rolled oats. And it's challah, it's Shabbat, a stick of butter. If room temperature is soft enough, great. If not, then melt it, but make sure if you melt it that you let it cool enough before you add it in, because you don't want to kill the yeast. You've got an optimum temperature, 100, 120, that if you go above 120, you're going to start killing organisms in the honey too. Okay, so we've got the yeast, we've got the oats, we've got the salt, we're going to add eggs. And here's my egg expertise. Break your eggs one at a time into a bowl. That way, if you have a bad egg, God forbid, you're not going to ruin the whole recipe. They'll find it in the bowl, throw it out, start with another egg. Save lots of recipes that way. So 2 eggs. Here's our 3rd egg. Again, challah is egg bread. That's why we have 3 eggs. All right, at this point, I'll add my whole wheat flour. It's 2 cups of whole wheat flour and less than 2 cups of bread flour. So here is 1. Again, it's bread. It's yeast dough. It doesn't have to be precise because it all depends on the temperature in your kitchen, the humidity in your kitchen. There's so many things. The dough, the flour itself. So you learn when you make a lot of bread to feel what's right. So I didn't level off my cup. If you want to level off your cup, by all means, go ahead. At this point, I'm going to mix. I can get the gluten developing in my whole wheat flour. This is white whole wheat flour, by the way. So my, as far as I know, it has the same nutrients. It's just a lighter color. So my bread doesn't look all dark. People don't say, oh my gosh, it's a whole wheat bread. It looks just right. So I'm going to turn up to 2. Time for a close-up. See how the dough is developing strings on them? That's the gluten developing. That's what's going to hold air in pockets and make for a light, tasty bread. So we go till we see that. We don't have to overbeat. There's overbeating, there's underbeating. This is just right. So we're going to slow it down here. That to go with the bowl. In a perfect world, I would, or in another person's world, I would get a clean bowl. I would oil the bowl and put this dough in the bowl. But why? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go half at a time. Scrape the bowl. Hold it up with the spatula and drizzle in my olive oil. I use good virgin olive oil for this. It's Shabbat. And then scrape again. Move the dough on top of the olive oil I just put down. Hold it back. Oops. Hold it back. Sprinkle in some more olive oil. And I promise you, at the end, this dough will just fall out of the bowl. Then what I'm going to do is, I've got a perfectly oiled bowl. Just give this a flip so the oil is on the top. And that's it. You see a little sheen on the top. That's the oil that I just flipped over. And then you cover the bowl. We're going to do a 2-hour rise. This is my magic trick. You can use saran wrap. You can throw a towel over it. But these little hoodies, oh my gosh, boom, it's covered. See you in 2 hours. It's been 2 hours in a cool-ish kitchen. Got a pretty good rise, as you can see, all the way up to the top. Take off the hat. And this is typically the punch down stage. I haven't punched my bread. I haven't punched challah ever since I've been baking it all this time, a year, whatever, because I read somewhere that it's, or saw somewhere that it's better to fold it than to punch it. So I'm respectfully folding my dough, just scraping a nice scraper. I love this one. Scraping the dough from the sides. It just kind of collapses in on itself. And then all I do is I just take this ball and gently turn it so the bottom's at the top. Nothing outrageously hard. Nothing hard at all, really. And that's it. The bottom's at the top. And we're done. Cover it up for another rise. In 1 hour, we'll shape. And now it's time to shape the challah. It's been rising for 2 hours. Then it was folded and then risen again for another hour. And here it goes out of the bowl. Boom. See? Now I'm going to make 2 challot. That's the plural of challahs. Challah. Yeah. So I'm going to divide my dough in half. And first I'll make the 6 braid. No, first I'll make the 3 braid. Okay. I'm the boss, I get to decide. Dividing this in 3. I like to weigh my pieces because then they're even to braid. It's nothing like braiding 7, one longer than the others. Just not attractive. Okay. Yeah, I'm rolling this out so I can fill it. Usually I'd make snakes, and you'll see that in my 6-strand braid. But this is going to be filled. I'm making a garlic, herb, Parmesan cheese filling because we're having lasagna tonight. I thought that would be nice. This is chopped roasted garlic and oil. Play with your fillings. My favorite filling is sivan, which is date syrup and tahini. Really easy and really delicious. I'm just going to sprinkle some Italian seasoning on this. This is actually bread dipping seasoning because it's bread, right? And then I will sprinkle on some Parmesan cheese. I'll also put Parmesan cheese on the top of the bread, on the outside of the bread. Gives it a nice look, plus it gives people a hint as to what's inside. So I put it on, I've left the edges clean so I can start this okay, and then with a clean edge I can seal them up, just little pinchies, seal up the filling. Some of the filling is going to show, it's going to open up as it rises and stuff. That's just the fun of it. Alright, I'm going to try and get this a little bit longer while not losing the filling. Okay. And I'll braid. So first, pinch the ends together really, really good because they will come apart on rising and baking. And what I like to do is kind of twist as I'm braiding. So that way if it does open up, it's pretty and it looks like I meant it. So I'll twist this one. I kind of forgot how to braid 3-braid the first time I did a filled challah because I've been braiding with 6 strands so long. It's like, well, how did I do my hair? I don't know. I remembered. I don't like a big, long, thin braided challah. I like it nice and fat. I'm going to pinch this together real well. And there's my challah. Second piece of dough. I'm going to cut it in thirds and then, well, actually, I like going along the middle first, so I'm going to cut it in half vertically. And then try and get even cuts. And again, I'm going to weigh. These end up being, yeah. So I've got 6 pretty even balls of dough. Again, especially since I pinched them and added pieces and subtracted pieces. Give them a little knead. And then snake time. Yeah, it's like Play-Doh. Actually, the consistency is a lot like Play-Doh. Sometimes I do it a little softer, but this doesn't feel bad. And I just do it about as long as I have it. 6 strands of challah. They do shrink back a little bit. That's what I account for. So I'm going to pinch them all together really, really well. That's going to get tucked under. And then we do the 6th braid. So separate out my strands. We're going to take the strand on the far right, because we read right to left, right? And put it over. I'm not going to stretch this and make it all thin. I like it to look plump. So here's my far right strand, pulling that over. Now I'm going to take that first strand and put it down the middle, and then I have to replace it. So I'm going to take the one that was almost furthest to the right, put that over, and pull down my second strand, and then replace that one. Then I'll come down, put this one across, down, place that, down, place that, down. At the end, you just kind of mishmash them around a little bit. And again, pinch well, tuck well. And there you have it. And after 30 minutes in the oven, we have our Shabbat challah. And everybody here, this is Bubbe Joan. Someone's in the kitchen with Bubbe Joan, with all my friends and family, saying Shabbat Shalom.